Like if you are a big money producer somewhere like Warner Brothers or Sony Pictures, and you have been like touting around how everybody can be a filmmaker, well, here's a filmmaker, give him a career.
Yeah.
Like put your money where your mouth is. Or, go on Joel Haver's Patreon page and support the page.
Yeah.
Because here's a filmmaker who obviously is like taking up that challenge.
See, Canadian filmmaker, this is what you get for messing with AI, even in your movie plots. I asked ChatGPT how to pronounce your name, since you don't have an intro anywhere handy on your YouTube channel. I don't know how to pronounce your name, man, but ChatGPT first of all thinks that you're an American filmmaker. You seem to be a Canadian filmmaker if we're to go with the more retro route of trusting Wikipedia instead. And, the suggestion how to pronounce your name is Haver, so I'm sticking to it. Hi, Henrik. How are you?
Pretty well, once again.
Okay. Off to a good start here, I guess. Raging already about today's filmmaker.
Uh-huh.
No, it's not like that. But we're supposed to talk about, Joel Haver. Haver. No, I think it's Haver.
And most likely Haver. Like, and in the worst case scenario, even if we end up butchering his last name, most likely we are not the only ones doing it. So, we can just say that we just, first of all, we learned bad habits from ChatGPT, and also, like, we just make the same mistake that everybody else has already made. We are keeping the legacy going on, so to speak.
Yeah, so to speak, apologies from our end, since, we're doing this on a bit of a hectic schedule, but we chose to check out 2 Joel Haver movies. We're gonna discuss those.
Yeah, in this podcast, which pretty soon runs out of content, right after we run out of Ridley Scott alien films to mock.
I tossed it out there to the ether. Karate Kid.
No.
Oh.
No. I'm not, like, I personally am not going to touch that franchise with a 10-foot pole held by someone else.
I have a 15-foot pole, if that works.
Well, that I can consider, perhaps, maybe. But just we just to remind you, we live in post Me Too, so you just keep the 15-foot pole of yours in audio form.
Apple. We are.
Welcome.
We are also in the new Trump era, so everything is on the table.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, Joel Haver. We chose 2 movies, The Text and Anyone Else But Me. Do I understand correctly? You have watched the same movies.
Yeah.
All right. Where do you want to pick it up from?
My first question. This one goes directly to you, man. Why exactly are we doing this?
Okay.
Like in behind the scenes moments, I got a email message from you which said that, hey, I found this one YouTube filmmaker. Let's do 2 short films from him, and then I get your list of the movies that you have picked, and they were all fucking feature length. And I'm like, what now? A, why are we touching on this YouTuber? And B, do I now have to actually explain to you the concept of a short movie?
Well, yeah, I guess I might have forgotten that thing, but I posted to you the playlist, and that seemed to include mainly feature-length films, and you were saying something like, oh, this guy was thinking of doing 12 movies in a year, and seems to have failed miserably, but we could try to watch a couple of his projects from that.
Well, like, okay, this is where it actually gets technical. The original challenge opposed to himself by Haver is that he's going to make 12 feature-length movies during this year. And he has now posted 7 movies, of which 6 are feature length, and one is featurette. So technically it doesn't count. But so I would say that he has like little over a month to go and finish his challenge. And depending on exactly like how forgiving this podcast is, which is none at all, he now has a little over a month time to do 6 feature-length movies. So absolutely no pressure, Joel.
Well, in fact, what is the definition of a feature length? Because I've seen definitions that
Over an hour.
Do include under an hour movies as well.
No, it's featurette.
Is it like 50 minutes? Is there like an official real definition for this? Let's see.
It hasn't been set in stone like as a God-given command. And if I remember correctly, like the featurette's length is it usually somewhere around like 45-minute mark.
Ha.
But that's usually. It's not like it's not an ironclad rule, meaning that Joel is all out of the frying pan simply because he managed to stretch it 3 minutes over that. It can still count as a featurette. And the common consensus of feature length is over an hour.
Then I checked Wikipedia, which is the horn of truth. And it says that according to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the American Film Institute, and the British Film Institute, a feature film runs more than 40 minutes. While the Screen Actors Guild asserts that a feature's running time is 60 minutes or longer. So, I don't know.
So here we are.
Anyway, yeah, you were coming back to the whole journey of, you were asking why are we watching Joel Haver movies tonight? Well, the reason is I have a friend who said that he, on a couple of occasions, he was sending me on WhatsApp links to Joel Haver movies, and he said that you should check that out. And then he would do follow-ups like, did you check Joel Haver out? Did you check him? I'm like, oh, okay, what the hell? And at that point I was like, okay, this is clearly the Flick Lab episode then. Okay, you don't want to watch Karate Kid? Joel Haver it is. Enjoy.
Well, this was actually a smoother ride than to watch Karate Kid, which I'm confident is like I'm pretty confident as someone who has never actually watched any of the Karate Kid movies that they are like technically pretty well made.
Yeah.
The thing is just that like I've seen the Karate Kid storyline so many times already that I can kind of like, as I proved to you behind the scenes, I can kind of just wing it how Karate Kid movie is going to work.
Yeah, maybe you can, maybe you don't, You have to watch it to know the truth.
No,
to give the real verdict.
I actually don't. No. I have enough self-confidence that I know that I already guessed it closed enough. Like perhaps I got like couple of little things wrong here and there, but most likely I'm like 95% certain that I actually did get it to 90% ballpark on how the movie is going to play out.
It was pretty good, but you still don't know the 80s context and how the films changed over the years. That's what you're missing here. That's what's my main interest.
That could be, yeah. Could be, and it could be like that in Hellraiser, in original Hellraiser episodes, especially the first one.
God bless that episode. Yeah.
I kind of missed the whole context of Clive Barker being angry at the AIDS discourse happening in the 1980s America, since I never actually have gotten HIV, but it's still it's one of those bridges that I'm just not willing to cross. Like I'm not willing to go that hard into this podcast.
God bless those episodes, except like Pinhead would like to say, not quite. But so you're saying that Karate Kid, like basically anyone else but me can watch it. This is my bridge to the first movie that we might be talking about.
Well, no. I'm saying that you most definitely can watch it.
Oh,
Just don't bother me with Karate Kid nonsense.
okay. Anyone else but you?
Uh-huh. And we both can watch Possession, the
I
movie which also has been in the watch list for quite some time now.
But anyone else but me? Thoughts? This was close to 2 hours. Actually, a feature-length film from the director, who is indeed, according to Wikipedia, Canadian-born YouTuber and filmmaker, born in '96. Has done some rotoscoped animation, which I'm sure that Henrik is excited about. Maybe has even checked some of those works. I haven't. I have limited myself only to these 2 films. Did you check any of his additional work?
I did check some of his additional work, but I'm not going to discuss about it tonight because that would be kind of unfair.
And yeah, he has kickstarted like this little movie making event annual that is called Movies Shot During the Oscars Film Festival, encouraging independent filmmakers to shoot feature-length films during the broadcast of the Academy Awards ceremony. But anyone else but me? Basically, this is Henrik's stage acting gone wrong. Somebody goes psycho in the group and takes the role playing a little bit too seriously, kind of like Robert Davi as Franz Sanchez, I guess, and takes his role playings outside of the theater world so far that he gets stuck with these characters and then plays them to the extent that one of the girl acquaintances, like a date acquaintance of this theater participant person, is being kidnapped because she's associated with this fake character that he's playing, who is supposed to be filthy rich. All of the characters that he's playing are just played so over the top, and everything is in fact over the top. Even the dialogue is so over the top, the acting is over the top. It's basically a scenario that would never happen, so I'm leaning into, yes, we're trying something more comedical here. Perhaps doesn't always work so well. Of course, these are shot in such a quick succession that you are bound to have like a jerky dialogue, I would say. That's what I'm gonna call it. And moments that they are either supposed to be extremely comedic, which doesn't work, and the dialogue suggests that this is something that is not supposed to ever happen. So yeah, that's kind of the starting point.
So, Kari's friend, if you are listening to this, your ex-friend at this point, never, ever again recommend movies or YouTube channels to Kari and to this podcast.
Yeah, precisely. Like, I was watching these movies, and was unsure what Henrik would say about these films. I was leaning more into the territory that this is maybe something that Henrik really likes. He's gonna watch through all the, well, mediocre acting and plots, which are, again, understandable under the time pressure, which again then harkens back to the question of why just to pull it off, man, or, yeah, thoughts?
That is the biggest question, like, or the biggest question surrounding these movies. Why the self-imposed challenge of 12 features in 12 months? Like, why even attempt that? Of course, like, yeah, it is something that will push you to your limits as a well filmmaker or YouTuber, depending on kind of like how you count yourself. Joel Haver's Wikipedia, which most likely is being like upheld by himself or one of his friends, I would believe, simply judging by how the article or how his Wikipedia page has been written and how actively it is being updated. That Wikipedia page states that he is a YouTuber and a filmmaker. So in that sense, yeah, the challenge is a way to push yourself to the limit as a filmmaker. But then the question rises, like, is this a challenge that actually even should be attempted? Seeing exactly how hard and how time-consuming even like a short film production would be like 12 short films in 12 months. That already can be quite the burden to take upon yourself. Like it's most definitely that is doable. I just was acting in one short film production, and we don't know yet. It hasn't come out of post yet, so I don't know how long it's going to be. I would say it's going to be like 3 to 5 minutes, and that shoot lasted for 8 hours. So that's kind of like what it's going to take.
Yeah.
Of course, you can cut corners somewhere around there, like for example, depending on what you're going to use to shoot your film and how big you are going to be about setting the scene and blocking and lighting and everything like that, and vice versa. Well, in the last production I was in, it was like I said, it was really short film. So the producer was extremely lenient towards the director. You can take a shot from shoot one scene from a million angles, and you can take as many reshots as you want. So there was not the producer didn't come into the director's neck and in the sense that you get three reshoots, and then we are going to skip to the next scene, and that's that. Do your best and find the best shot from those. That obviously didn't happen. So it's kind of vice versa. You get more lenient, and in some forms, it's extremely limiting. But 12 short films in 12 months would have already, in my opinion, been quite the challenge. So why push yourself into, attempting to do 12 feature lengths in 12 months?
Yeah.
God only knows, and in this case, Joel Haver.
Yeah, it's in one sense it's admirable, and at some point in your life you might have this urge to push yourself at whatever time in your life. You really get that kind of an urge that you want to push yourself. Either it's artistically, or you just want to see something happen, or you, in the case of Joel Haver, he has garnered quite the following, I see, and there's hundreds of thousands of views on these movies, and he has a substantial, actually incredible following on Patreon. So these are the main supporters, pretty clearly watching from credits and the amount that he is garnering money-wise from his Patreon ventures. A big portion of this money is pushed towards the filmmaking, and hey, that's great. I saw one video from him just trying to explain and kind of show how much his movies are costing to make, and that ended with something about, I forgot exactly the exact figure, but it was I think around the 10k mark, or less than 10k for one of his films. So yeah, films cost money every time, even if it's almost basically, even if you're calling a zero budget movie, then it's not really ever a zero budget, except in my case, I guess. But in most cases, if you want some quality out of it, if you need to get resources, the people and the locations and the crew and all the equipment, that's just gonna cost money every time. 10k is nothing in these circles if you want to push your boundaries.
Yeah, and one thing to note is that Joel Haver's Patreon at the moment is not pulling 10k a month.
Okay, how much was it?
So it's a little over 8,000, or it's 8,000 in euros. Sorry, so it might be in Canadian dollars. It may reach the 10k. So with that kind of a Patreon income, now I don't know if Joel Haver has some outside of Patreon money sources. I hope he has. I hope that cash is flowing in somewhere, because if his budget is something like 10k or 8k, it would kind of mean that his current Patreon income almost exclusively goes into financing his next movie.
Yeah.
If not even that, it's not enough money and he has to pocket the rest of his budget from somewhere. So most definitely, like if you're doing 12 movies in 12 months, that means like you better have the outside Patreon money source somehow, or he's most likely like ruining his bank account attempting to pull this one off. And that's a like you mentioned, movies cost money, even if it's kind of a like zero budget, nothing fancy filmmaking. It still is easily like 8 to 10K.
Yeah.
Which once again begs the question, like, why do this? Why attempt this kind of a challenge? Why take the financial risk of basically running yourself bankrupt just in order to meet some type of like 12 feature-length movie line?
Yeah. This is kind of like a, how do you say, pitkän kaavan mukaan tehty, we would say in Finnish. Like he's going through the long road to, perhaps he has like this inner will that somebody will give him more spot, or somebody will notice him that he is doing this kind of a crazy thing, and that's what I'm thinking. Like that might be a good idea to get more investors and make some kind of a I don't know, but to grow your channel and maybe grow your career via these stunts.
But that actually leads into my main talking point, and the reason why I've been proposing this question, like why even try this, which is I'm kind of hesitant on exactly how much of a new career and how much investors he is pulling with this attempt at the end. And that, like, I don't propose the question in order to somehow downplay Joel Haver, but to lead into my actual talking point, which is the societal idea that has been creeping up in filmmaking circles, but most definitely and especially outside of filmmaking circles, where is this like semi-nonsensical statement that these days filmmaking is easy and it has been somehow democratized so that everyone can do it. Like the argument usually goes that since the cameras in your cell phone, they are so good these days, basically anyone who has a cell phone can make a movie, so everybody can be a filmmaker, which obviously is not true. And in one way, I see that we have Joel Haver here, not necessarily doing it on purpose, but actually giving us a good reminder that the whole everyone can be a filmmaker, why don't you just, get off your ass and start create films or art or what have you. It's kind of like that old song.
Yeah.
It's mostly just bullshit.
There is another Joel Haver YouTube channel. Yeah, it's kind of confusing sometimes with these creators, but he has another channel where he's talking about filmmaking and his projects and how it's going and things like that. What kind of seemed to be the case for me is that, yeah, this is really just a filmmaker who is really passionate about filmmaking first and foremost. So that I see as the main driving force. And then whatever comes with it after, fame, more projects, that seems to be like the plus side of things. He just lives it and breathes it and loves to do it.
And that can be the case for Joel Haver, but I would say that this is the moment where basically anyone who has been singing that everybody can be a filmmaker these days, just use your iPhone to make a movie. Everybody who has been singing that song, they now actually have a example to stand behind their words and give Joel Haver an actual Hollywood shot. Like if you're a big money producer somewhere like Warner Brothers or Sony Pictures, and you have been like touting around how everybody can be a filmmaker, well, here's a filmmaker, give him a career.
Yeah.
Like Put your money into like where your mouth is, or go on Joel Haver's Patreon page and support the page, because here's a filmmaker who obviously is like taking up that challenge. He's not shooting his movies with any type of a fancy camera equipment, as is evident. He's mostly using natural lighting, so there is no fancy lighting rig being used. He's mostly, like, when it comes to ADR, he's mostly recording the sound using the camera's microphone, which once again is quite evident, especially in many scenes where you get some echo or reverb or what have you. So obviously, here we have a filmmaker who is just, well, not necessarily exactly taking his iPhone to shoot his films, but close enough equivalent of that, and just trying to shoot movies.
He's doing that as well. Yeah, he had some films where he's just using I think it was iPhone, but it was a phone-made movie, just maybe to prove a point, or to show that, yeah, everyone can do movies, which is true, it's lower barrier of entry into making movies. And it was always, I do believe that it's more about, the maker than it is about the tools. It is also about the tools. But you can make movies without necessarily the distraction of the quality being the barrier for people watching it these days.
Well, here's a good chance also for you, Kari, like Joel Haver's Patreon. I expect to see some receipts for, supporting that. Because, goddamn, because this is where the actually the rug pull happens. The song goes that everybody can make movies, because cameras are now everywhere. So the barrier of entry is basically non-existent. Everybody can do it. So when somebody does it, then the crying starts how, well, the dialogue is not up to snuff, or bloody hell, the actors are not Hollywood quality, or why does the DP all of a sudden suck, or why is the ADR, why is there noticeable mistakes and flops in the audio, why are the sets so crappy, why ain't the props proper? That nonsense starts basically right the next moment, when somebody actually finally goes and does it. And here we have in my opinion, kind of a prime example of this. So Joel Haver, his Patreon is pulling something like 8 to 10k perhaps in month, depending on like what currency you're using. So why isn't he pulling $1 million? Because people think that the movies are not good enough. Because, they don't look like Hollywood stuff. Because the actors are not Hollywood stuff. And if that is kind of like the reasoning, well, fucking duh.
Well,
because at the end of a day, like, that's what you get when somebody uses his iPhone to shoot a film. Of course, he's not going to have Hollywood. Like, of course, the end result is not going to be a Hollywood production.
No. But there's something to unpack there. You said that you don't get the actors that are like Hollywood level or whatever. You don't get the set design, or you don't get the lighting that is needed. Well, you might not have the greatest camera at your disposal. You might have iPhone Pro. Okay, great. That's relatively inexpensive thing to have to shoot your movie. But then the rest of the things, it depends. Like, if your actors can be fantastic still, even on the cheap, I would say. That's something that you can affect.
They can if you find some type of a miracle child from somewhere.
Yeah, but maybe you have more wiggle room there than with your tools. I don't know. You tell me, Mr. Filmmaker. But is this some kind of a segue into Joel Haver has some issues with anyone else but me movie?
No, actually, this is more just me venting out my frustration towards the kind of a people who don't deal with filmmaking trying to explain exactly how easy it is to make movie these days. Because the thing with filmmaking is that, like Joel Haver himself points it out, if you're going to be brutally honest, the movies obviously they don't like look anything that special. If you take a Joel Haver feature film and you put that against a Hollywood feature film, you just get a noticeable drop in quality when it comes to acting, when it comes to set, when it comes to lighting, when it comes to camera, when it comes to audio, what have you.
Yeah, like it seems that he's putting the stories first, and maybe on a flip side also not, because these are done on such of a quick pace that he loves telling stories, but then he doesn't have a lot of time to put these stories together. And like you said, he's using a lot of natural lighting, blah, blah, blah. That's fine. But yeah, you can see that these are done quickly. Are you saying that, would be nice to, see more Joel Haver pictures that have more planned out lighting, let's say, or maybe even more, I guess, cinematic lighting instead of the natural?
What I'm saying is that this quality already costs 8 to 10K a month.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you need your iPhone, and you need 8 to 10K a month.
Yeah.
And you need actors. And you need sets.
Yeah.
And if you're going to start to cry about, the image quality or the sound quality or the lighting quality, in that case, you also would need a better camera, better audio recording devices, better lighting devices. All of that costs money, most likely more than what 8 to 10K actually is. And even after that, what you need is time. So if you have like, and that is something where Joel Haver perhaps still somewhat stands strong, hopefully. Since he's pulling money from Patreon, he can at least in some capacity, he can sustain himself by his filmmaking, which means that when it comes to his time, he can take his time and just mostly put it into filmmaking. But let's say that you are Joe or Sue average. You work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week in Walmart, and then you have your free time to try to make your dream project movie happen. Even if you have your bloody iPhone, you don't have the time. You can try to find wiggle room around your time. You can try to write a script that only happens during the night time, and then you try to have evening shoots or nighttime shoots. Or you can, and you just, like, you shoot from, let's say, 12 p.m. to 2 a.m. And then you just sleep 6 hours a night, and then you go to work and you do your 8 hours. You can try to pull that one off. Or you can try, just have weekend shoots, and you just pray that that's okay to all of your friends who happen to work for free for your movie. Might happen. But you can kind of see how already that time also becomes a limiting factor. Like, most people just, even if they have the iPhone and they have the camera, they just don't have the time.
Yeah.
And from that, my main point, bloody hell, it's not so simple, it's not so democratized that simply because you now have an iPhone that has a camera feature, you can all of a sudden be a filmmaker. And if you are not a filmmaker by now, that's just your personal failure.
Yeah, and I guess that's what Joel Haver was trying to make us understand, that, well, yeah, I shot this movie on the cheap, but yeah, look at that, it cost something like 8K. But he was like, yeah, this was his reaction to that final sum was like, yeah, this was pretty inexpensive. And yeah, for a movie, man, I know it's inexpensive for a movie. Just another tangent on that. It's just a couple of weeks now that I've been just thinking about this more. Nothing earth-shattering about saying this, but just to say it out loud how insane filmmaking or TV work is compared to other forms of art, so to say. You're a painter, okay. You have pretty much a full control of your work. It's just one guy doing it. Might be expensive, don't know. Probably is. You pay for the paintbrushes and the paint and the canvas, whatever. Don't know. And in the case of something like TV, it's always a collaborative effort, as we know. There's so many moving pieces. Not just that, but like you said, you have something like a 3 to 5 minute short film, and even for that you use 8 painstaking hours to get it together. Just a shooting phase. Then you edit it for 3 months, 6 months.
Yeah,
Who
thank
knows?
God I'm not in post or editing. I'm just an actor, so
Yeah.
my job is done.
Yeah.
I'm out of that production.
Yeah. And here I was just putting together something silly that I shot 24 years ago, and I just first time that I actually put together that film, all the material that we shot together, and put it into an actual movie form. How much time did it cost me? 3 months. And looking back at it, I'm like, hello, this is absolute madness. Okay, you have like 15 minutes of footage. Sure. But to tell a story, to put something together like that, it still takes so inordinate amount of time from your life. Like 3 months, it's still like half of 6 months. 6 months is half of a year. You just think about these things. You look at some MSNBC broadcast on YouTube. There's a guy called Morning Joe, like the most useless guy on TV ever. And there's all this TV machinery around him. There's the cameraman, there's the mic man, there's the host, there's the set. The point is, it takes an incredible amount of time, an incredible amount of monetary resources. And then you have some asshole Morning Joe discussing the politics to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about how much that costs us, that 1 minute of footage to put that asshole in front of the camera. Was it worth the effort?
Yeah. And that kind of, like, to circle back into the original, the first question of tonight. Finally, after this extremely long tangent.
Extremely.
Yeah, why did Joel Haver try to do 12 feature-length movies in 12 months? I don't know. But I kind of am still on Joel's side here. I admire his attempt, even though in my honest opinion it has been pure lunacy. But if nothing else, I do think that the attempt, the challenge, and the end result here kind of serves as a good reminder of exactly how taxing and how much, basically of everything, time, money, people, these productions and these attempts take. So the creative process, it's not easy, and it's not something that just happens in a flash.
No.
And Joel Haver kinda is an example of that. So I raise my hat to the man for actually working as a reminder of that fact.
And I'm still not sure that it's kind of a virtue or worth of striving for, making something as quickly as possible and then showcasing that, yeah, I did it as quickly as possible. Anyway, let's look at these two films and let's see what we think about them. Just on the overall, now let's say anyone else but me. What's your actual thoughts?
Well, now everything nice has been said. Let's get into the trash talking. Anyone else but me? I actually quite liked it. I think it's fairly solid. Hour and a half. It's one of those grounded comedies, which means that it's like Joel Haver himself. Once again, to quote his own Wikipedia page, which most likely is being upheld by the man himself, he states that he is a comedian. So I took it that anyone else but me is meant to be a comedy. And in a way it is, but it's one of those down-to-earth artsy comedies, which means that it's not really outright funny, or not at least in laugh-out way, which of course comes with the caveat that how much you actually laugh with the movie, it kind of comes down to your personal preferences. I can say it's a comedy, and the next dude, the guy next to me, can say that I didn't laugh even once.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like, okay, it's perfectly solid because it wasn't that type of a comedy. But like you said, like you proposed the question, like is is it a virtue to try to do something as quickly as possible? That actually is a question that shows up in the at least in the movies that Joel has now made during his challenge. It does kind of show up also in Anyone Else But Me, and also in text. Not to a point where it comes like a crippling fault, but you can kind of see that there has been those moments where, he just has been running against the clock.
Yeah, when it comes to the humor, when it comes to the dialogue, for me it's like there's nothing surprising in there. It's kind of like making the easiest lines that you can make out of the situation. I felt like it was a little bit too surfacey. If that makes sense. So I wasn't one of those laughing with the movie. I found myself actually watching it and then feeling like, yeah, I've seen this many times before. Also, I don't know what's with these. I don't know if it's fair to say this, but low budget movies and a lot of cursing in the dialogue. Not exactly Shakespearean is gonna come something out of let's make one movie a month. But yeah, wow, the the cursing. Anyway.
Yeah, well, when it comes to script, that's actually is I would believe it is a trickier question, because we don't actually know for certain how much time Joel has taken to write the script and therefore write the dialogue. Because if I would be attempting this type of a challenge, I would have tried to plan it out for like a year or two beforehand, just to like write the scripts ready. Have 12 or at least 6 scripts already ready-made before I announce my challenge, so that I wouldn't face the situation where I'm seeing like, okay, it's January and I have to make the movie. Well, better get typing and type my script. To avoid that situation, I would have like already, I would have the scripts in my backlog already. And most likely I would have also attempted to actually have the negotiations with the actors and to have the sets already nailed down with some type of agreement, so that when January comes, I can just, run to get the camera equipment and just get to the location and start shooting, and then get into the edit as quickly as possible. So it might be that Joel hasn't done it this way, and he starts with every month by, writing his script, which is absolute lunacy, and I, like, oh my god. Or it might be that, Anyone Else But Me, the dialogue is something that he has spent like 3 months thinking about and ironing out and writing it. We don't exactly know, because and not every aspect of the challenge, it doesn't need to be open to us as movie audiences. That can be like Joel does how he feels about it. But of course it does affect into like how much that is just Joel and his talent, and how much that is just like not having enough time.
Yeah, the characters were quite absurd. Some of the reactions of the characters to different characters' dialogue was quite absurd. Some of it kind of was on the funny end too. Yeah, okay. But it's just full of scenarios that just don't happen. It starts with the fake Austrian guy. This is like the stage actor or student playing a role in a cafeteria, and there's a beautiful lady next to him, and they're kind of on a date, and he starts telling this madmanish story about saving kittens, and it just becomes absolutely absurd by the end, and she's just rolling her eyes and looking at the clock, or just thinking how to get the hell out of that situation. And there's some follow-up dates with different ladies. There's the Sundance Fest girl, and she's actually working on a movie that the main character of this film will later witness. And then there's the fake businessman role that this main character is also playing to another girl, and this girl gets kidnapped, and that's what we mainly follow here.
Yeah, it's a movie that kind of does not have any likable characters. In that sense, it kind of takes the artistic indie or art film route where it basically it is a world that is being completely inhabited by unlikable assholes. Because our main character is semi unmoralistic. The acting teacher that he's following, whose course he's taking part in, is semi incompetent, and also doesn't really care all that much what happens in his course. Well, the kidnapped lady is like the most likable character in this film. The other two main characters being, well, the kidnappers. So in that sense, I did find it semi funny. I found the depiction of the world here semi funny. In the sense that it's kind of like what you fancy today situation. I just happened to find watch it in a day when having a world with no likable characters at all in it kind of just happened to work. But that's not like it might be that works for you on Wednesday, but not on Sundays kind of situation.
Yeah, what do you make of this kind of dialogue? Like you said, that some people might find it funny, some people not at all. To me, it feels like recycled dialogue very much. That you've seen it everywhere in different places already, and it's kind of the sorry to say, but kind of like the basic mix of that. Like there's not a lot of meat around it. That's my feeling. That I just don't. It's very indie. I don't know how else to put it.
To me, it felt inoffensive. Let's put it that way. Like it's not. It most definitely it's not Shakespeare. It's not Sorkin. It's not Tarantino. Let's admit that much. But it didn't bother me personally. But that, of course, is kind of like me just as a movie watcher. Like I'm one of those people who fall in more into the camp of either there is something in the dialogue that just works so bloody well that it just hooks me, and then I make a special notice of the dialogue, or then I'm just like closely following the story itself, and at that point, the dialogue can be in a pretty wide range of different types of quality, and it just doesn't create a problem for me.
Yeah,
I'm really forgiving if I'm in the mood of I'm just following the story, and if the dialogue is something that I especially like notice, in that case, either it's extremely bad, and the dialogue in anyone else but me, it most definitely it wasn't in the extremely bad category. But it also wasn't in extremely good either, so I didn't pay a special notice to it.
Yeah, in some situations I found that actually some of the acting was pretty good, but then most of the time it was a little suffering because of the dialogue situation. But yeah, otherwise there were some good moments there.
Yeah, and that what also is something like. Which I was just forgiving the movie, based on the fact that as that this is a movie that has been done in like 4,000 with a budget of 4,000. So that means that, for example, the actors are not being paid, or they are being paid in food stamps or something like that. But these are not actors that you have gotten with through money. These are your friends. perhaps even family members. These are someones who are trying to break into acting, are just going through the indie roles in hopes that they will land something or manage to land an agent by, at this point making free work. So in that sense, like, yeah, like mentioned, the acting isn't anything Hollywood, but it also was again, it was in the ballpark of, yeah, I'm forgiving it. It wasn't a real problem for me. The thing that was more of a problem when it came to anyone else but me was that, well, first of all, I do think that the film is perhaps a bit overlong. It's kind of overlong in a really insidious way, where mechanically every scene that the film has, it does have a mechanical purpose in script sense. There is no scene that doesn't really mean anything in this story, but it still feels like the movie takes too long. It wouldn't have to be as long as it is, which then leads you into the question of what scenes you drop, even though mechanically they are justifiable, and how many seconds do you trim off from this scene and that scene and the scenes X, Y, G. And that's kind of a trickier question to answer. But that was like one of the, since we are now in the negatives, that was something that I did have a problem with. I do think that there perhaps would have been, let us say, 15 to 20 minutes perhaps to trim from this one.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. Maybe we can do like a roundup tour and just discuss the next one and then come all the way back. So the text, this is at least what appears to be, certainly seems to be marketed as such, a one-shot film.
Yeah, unless there is some magically good hiding of the cuts happening, but I really don't see it.
Yeah, in one sense I can understand why somebody would be making this kind of film. Of course, saves you an incredible amount of time in the editing booth, at least to an extent.
Then again, it's a nightmare to pull off.
Yep. That's the other end. And you have a crazy preparation before this circus.
Yeah, and it's like incredibly risky affair. You let's say that you are making like an hour and 20 minutes long feature. So you have managed to shoot hour and 15 minutes, and then someone fucks up badly, and that's just like, there's no saving it. Start from the beginning. Everybody get their first places. We are shooting this on one take, so all of that work just out of the window.
Yep. And it could also be just the cameraman or the guy who wrote it, and he is the cameraman, which was, I understand the situation here. So there's so many points of failure. But on the other hand, yeah, if you pull it off, save some time in the post. But oh my gosh, how many times do you think they did this? Like, you have to have a lot of understanding for your colleagues in this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. The text is the film that I grabbed about, how it's a featurette. It's 48 minutes.
Yep.
And something long. Doesn't really have opening titles. Doesn't really have end credits. So pretty much 48 minutes of tight acting and camera work. Obviously, in the film, you can see that. Well, it's one camera. Audio is being recorded with the camera. I would say so. You don't have you don't have the sound guy there.
Yeah.
It's natural lighting, so you don't have the lighting rigs that you would have to hide. So that helps you out somewhat. There is no equipment and no crew that would get into the shot. That obviously is a big saving grace when trying to pull this one off. But there is quite a lot of dialogue.
Yeah.
And there is quite a lot of movement that happens in this one. So I can reasonably believe that this is something that has been... It must have been practiced quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and a lot of the dialogue seems to be improvised, which I think is probably a smart way to go about it. You can give some wiggle room for the actors. You just give them the context. You may have better words for this kind of a scenario, but you give them the context of what the individual scenes are about, and then they just kind of wing it, and might give you more results.
Yeah, which unfortunately is something that you can see happening here.
Okay.
Like even more than anyone else but me, this is the one where you can just... where the dialogue gets even more clunkier, because it is... Haven't read the script, I don't know how much of it is being improvised.
Yeah.
But obviously improvisation is happening, and I wouldn't say that these guys are professional improvisers.
Oh.
So yeah, so the clunkiness starts to creep in. I also don't know exactly how long they have had time to prepare or practice for this film.
We would have all the answers if we would just be on the Patreon, where they have commentary tracks. But this is kind of like sort of coming in perspective episode.
Yeah, but we can know that the budget for this has been a little over 2,200 and what have you. And from that overall budget, the location has eaten up $1,936, which it's reasonably big house that they are using. So I don't know exactly how far that money is going to carry you. Of course, it might be that Joel happens to know the owner of the house, so that almost 2,000 gets him a week, perhaps. But it's very likely that he has had like a weekend to shoot this one. And seeing how it happens, there's action inside of the house, outside of the house, on the backyard, and then in 2 stories of the house. So that's quite a lot of technical stuff that you have to practice in. And unless this has been unless like Joel's friend owns the house and has given it for him, granted him free practice days inside the house, this has been, if that isn't the case, then this has to have been practiced in pretty quickly. Yeah, and that alone, that would be quite a technical feat.
I got the feeling somehow that, before they even opened their mouth about Airbnb, that this is an Airbnb accommodation, and somehow all these friends are together here for this particular moment, and stuff like that. Then I started thinking maybe this is an actual real-life Airbnb. Maybe something about how the characters behave there, or where the items are. I don't know. It seems a little cold and distant a bit, the behavior, and how the apartment is decorated, I guess. But this is about an apartment where they're staying, and there's this one guy who has to have a big presentation about this new dating app that he's working on, Me Plus You. And it's AI, it's using AI. Apparently you take photographs of yourselves, and then the AI will calculate the success of your love story in pictures. And I guess some additional text there. And everybody has some different kinds of situation going on here. One person is stressed that he's getting older, plus 30 crisis going on, and there's a bit of a tension with these characters going on. The one guy who is worried about his age a bit, he has this Gandalf sword there, so I was expecting that this could take a pretty dark turn and come into like a sword fight at the end, or at least some kind of a wrestling match. I was waiting for that kind of a switch, but that never came. In fact, based on these insinuations about the characters, I was expecting something a little bit different. Then it doesn't seem to follow up on those clues on the characters. and it just kind of ends abruptly.
Yeah, the text is a situation where pretty much you have the overlying concept. This is something that basically is similar with anyone else but me. That you pretty much Joel Haver's, or in these two films, Haver's approach to the story that he is telling seems to be that you have your main character. In anyone else but me, it is the guy on the acting course, and then in the text it's one of the friends, and then you have the inciting incident that happens or is actually already happened. In anyone else but me, it is the acting guy taking his course practice work or his homework too far. And in the text is one guy having sent a drunken text to his ex-girlfriend. And then you try to follow that one incident basically to its extreme conclusion. Which is one of the screenwriting tips or tricks, however you want to think about it. Where the lesson is that have an starting situation and then basically just introduce buts. Every single thing is a but. A man gets into his car because he decides to drive to the quick stop to get a can of milk, but he loses his tire. He decides that he's going to exchange the tire, but he opens the trunk and there's no spare. Decides to try to call help, but there is no phone signal. Like you take it this way, and you follow this until you reach the conclusion of your story. That's it. One of the kind of 101 screenwriting tips. How you get a story and your script going, and Haver seems to be pulling this or using this tip at least in these two films, which then leads into perhaps a running issue in both stories, which is that you have that escalation and you have that road of butts when it comes to your main character and the main incident that character has. But then kind of everybody else in both movies gets forgotten in the wayside. In case of the text, like you mentioned, all of those guys have something going on with them. There's one character who is worried about how he's getting older. Well, that gets dropped. It gets brought up and then, nothing comes out of it during the rest of the film. There is that one friend who's obviously having a phone call with his special someone. Well, that's just one scene and then that gets dropped. There is the AI dating app thing. Well, that actually gets carried over quite a lot in the course of the story, but it kind of also is kind of like the situation just kind of ends.
Yeah.
That they all, at the end of the film, they all just sit down to watch, him giving the presentation and it's roll credits. Unfortunately, in case of the text, that also is the thing that mostly just happens to the main character and the inciting incident, which is the drunken text. It's 48 minutes, or it's 49 minutes of the group of friends going on about how that text message is a big deal and how they have to somehow react to the text message. And then, the girl that shows up is just like, that text message is nothing. It's no biggie, the girl has already forgotten you. Most likely also blocked your phone number.
Yeah.
And then that's that.
Yeah, that's that. And I was expecting a lot of different things since, all these plot threads. And I was thinking that they would go the kind of hidden MacGuffin route that, oh, they're going to talk about this thing that's on the phone. Maybe they will reveal that, yeah, it's an actual text message, but they would never maybe go into the details of what's in the text message and, carry the, excitement from there. But
I was suspecting at first that the same thing. I was expecting that there is the switcheroo that the film is going to pull off.
Yeah.
But then again, I also checked out the playtime and noticed that we have been going on 15 to 20 minutes and this is 48. And I was like, they can't pull it off.
In this film as well, kind of weird reactions to, like overreactions, just like in the other movie, a bit like, is it this 30-year-plus guy who is really determined that the right course of action is to, react to this message with the certain knowledge that the lady has already or is thinking of calling the cops based on that message? Intense reactions. Then this 2 weeks old lady friend, it just pops out of nowhere. That was interesting. It's kind of a twist of the film.
Yeah.
And also the end reactions of the characters, trying to draw the conflict from the app guy, that this guy is now so determined to break the news of what's in the text message to everyone, and almost like a fight ensues. That was really pushing it, but hey, you got the conflict, hey, you got some drama, you got some context around these characters. Like you said, not really driven to conclusion, and something that kind of might appeal to someone. This kind of a ending without an answer didn't quite work here.
Yeah, that's one of the kind of also my problems also with the text.
Yeah.
That it's kind of the same thing that was happening in Anyone Else But Me. But in Anyone Else But Me, it wasn't such of a big problem for me because it happened more in this kind of a asshole field world, and the world in Anyone Else But Me was larger, so it was kind of easier to not so much pay attention into the fact that these characters go into these extreme conclusions and extreme emotions. When the asshole is acting course guy, Dave manages to get the one lady kidnapped, it's kind of easier to understand him going into extreme emotions and starting to try to pull off some type of a really desperate plan to save the girl. And at the same time, it's kind of in a asshole actor field world, it's kind of easy to see that he runs into a complete dumbass actor who can't differentiate a reality from some type of a extreme improvisational theater thing where there's no even audience happening. That was easier to believe than when it comes to the absolute mental breakdown / pitch fit that the app guy has in the text. And basically these are supposed to be a group of old friends, and that group's complete inability to in any way to reconcile the situation and stop it from escalating. Basically the app guy is responding into one throwaway line, which was, he's making a silly app, which was obviously stated by a socially awkward member of the group when he's speaking to a woman who he does not have a strong chemistry with. So that would have been like in real world, which the text feels more like that is taking place in real world. That would have been still pretty easy situation to salvage from, or even if your friend is socially inadept, too inadept to actually himself salvage the situation, you just not being complete asshole and not show the whiteboard that the text has been scribbled into, and even the decision to write it down on the whiteboard, which was already pretty dumb. Not to mention none of the friends actually taking time to wipe the whiteboard clean when the lady shows up at the house. Like, that's just kind of a piling into obvious plot mechanics that just have to happen so that the story can go into someplace. And that, in the text case, it became a bit of a problem. Or it did become my main problem with that film.
Yeah, the film obviously builds into that boiling point where all of these extremes have been said, and it's kind of boiling over with the little scuffle with the friend before the whiteboard gets seen by everyone. And maybe they could have played that a little bit stronger. I thought kind of the big reveal then is that for the new lady friend, this is all or nothing burger, and it is. But maybe some more impact or some more emotion could have been played into that when it just suddenly boils over.
Yeah, perhaps. Then again, I'm not certain if that could have been done in a movie that you do on one take.
Yeah, and if
at least with this group, I kind of believe that. And I was thinking about this when watching the text. I got the feeling that it was a film that would have benefited from being more traditionally shot and constructed movie where you have cuts and you have different scenes.
Oh.
Because in this case, everything that happens during the 48 minutes. Which kind of already starts to put limitations on exactly how crazy you can go. Like, if you have cuts, then you have different scenes, and that structure kind of gives the audiences more leeway to actually believe that between these different scenes, the situation has continued to escalate in a way that now we reach these new crazy heights. But while the one-take format, certainly, it helps to ground the film, and it helps to create the feeling that this is one awkward situation that our main character is going on, but it also proposes a limitation, because it is one awkward situation that our main character is going on, and therefore, it just can't go into super crazy territory, and because of that, they really don't have, like, the app guy does not really have anything too strong to react and, get bitchy about.
Yeah, it should have been a considerable rewrite then to build a major conflict by the end.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been about just the whiteboard or the app comments. All right, well, maybe some quick quickies. All right, so Henrik, what worked here with Joel Haver?
Well, overall, the films, in my opinion, they were pretty okay. I'm not blown away by them, but I do think that, well, coming from almost no money productions into YouTube, and being somewhat forgiving in face of those realities, I do think that they were actually, in all remarks, fine enough movies. I didn't have any major problems with neither one of them.
Yeah, I guess the main thing I would say is that, I raise my hat for pulling something like this off in 1 month, if that's actually what it was for both of these, more or less. So, that tells that this guy is ready to put on some movies, has kind of the basic structure of the whole project thing under control. But what didn't work?
Well, I mostly don't have anything to add to grievances that I've already voiced.
Yeah, I noticed that during both of these movies, I just kind of fluctuated with my attention. There were moments where I just couldn't quite grasp where is this going, in the sense that, for example, in the text, I think it's spending a lot of time on trying to introduce all its characters, going with the camera all around the house, actually going back to these characters many times. And then we get to the actual text message. And even after that, it's just some random discussion about some Airbnb, which at least at the moment, I wasn't really aware of how this all connects. So yeah, I was kind of in and out of the experience in both of those. And I would say that the Anyone Else But Me was already long, as already mentioned. But so we found elements to like about the films. Did you generally like the films then?
I generally did like the films.
Yeah, it was okay.
And I do think that Joel Haver, he does show promise in the sense that if he could escape, shoot the movie on $2,000 to $4,000 trajectory, I do believe that I do believe that Joel would have it in him to kind of pull off a Hollywood feature if he would get the chance.
Yeah. What still might intrigue me the most here is that why, in so many ways.
Mm-hmm.
This challenge is just one thing. The challenge, the money, using a big chunk of your monthly earnings, I suppose, just to pull it off, and then the Patreon support. Where is it coming from? I guess I shouldn't question, but this is a film podcast. I guess I have to question a bit. I'm just wondering where are all these people coming from? Why are they so interested in seeing specifically Joel Haver pull these things off? And well, I guess I'm just really surprised how the money goes around online these days. There's so many creative people out there, and likewise, there's so many people opening up their wallets for these people, and in such generous amounts. That's great, man. But I don't know how it all works, what's going on in people's heads when they do that, but that's great that there are this kind of grassroots approach to this, and you don't always have to go the movie studio way. Great. I guess it just also speaks about the types of attention people have. Maybe my brain's kind of all over the place. I look at the bigger picture. There's so many different content creators out there. Then there are those people who just select very narrowly these couple of people that they are going to support, and that's all their attention. That's all where their attention is being used for. I can't do that. That's kind of the old-timesy way. Like you would have like a couple of newspapers that you buy every day, and that's kind of your source of information. People are either extremely rich, or they just, I guess, channel their hard-earned currency into very specific projects, and they have chosen Joel Haver to be their focus. It's interesting. So I guess we have to, as in every episode we kind of do, ask the question, would you recommend Joel Haver or one of these two movies?
On my end, I would recommend both of these films. I would, and based on these two movies, I would recommend Joel Haver altogether. Are they perfect movies? No. And I don't just mean this in the sense that, obviously, the small budget is tackling him here, but they do also have some problems in the script department. We have already talked about the escalation in the text. There's also the fact that, like already mentioned, the films kinda just can't figure out how they wanna end.
No. Yeah.
In the text is just like roll credits. In anyone else but me, it's even more noticeable, because at the end of the day of that film, what you have is even more drastic character plot lines that just gets dropped. You have the kidnapped girl who I guess they set free and I guess never goes to cops. You have the two kidnappers, one who just I guess walks out of the film, and the second one who gives a ride to that one like treasure-seeking house owner and rides to his flat, and then that just drops there.
Yeah.
And that's and also the fact that in both of these movies you can kind of see the indie filmmakerisms going on in the text. Well, obviously one thing is the self-imposed challenge of doing a one take. It's that is extremely tricky and extremely challenging, and I do raise my hat to Joel Haver for being able to pull it off. At the same time, one take can also work as an excuse for limitations in your script. Why didn't these things pan out more? Why is this moment in the film weaker than all other moments? And you can easily say that because it was done on one take, please have mercy on me and my film. In anyone else but me, it shows up even more in the ending, where the ending pulls off the kind of Christopher Nolan-esque movieception, where the film ends and then it ends and it ends. It's a fake movie within a fake movie within a fake movie, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's it's a thing that can really work. I'm not now dieharding everybody's script and saying that never pull it off, but I just didn't get the feeling that actually did anything for anyone else but me, except just somehow managed to force that film into a conclusion. And I didn't get the feeling that the film even needed that conclusion. The story itself it already concludes in a satisfactory way. You have the asshole film student guy who takes his homework way too far, manages to risk one lady's life because of his antics, and at the end of a result, the reason why he does this is because he wants to put himself on the pedestal and to basically be able to say to the rest of the course that he's way better than everybody else. And in the end, he gets his way, or he gets his wish, in a kind of a monkey paw-esque way. He is being hailed as a maverick actor and participant on the course, and he's being put on the pedestal, but at the same time, the way that happens is that the rest of the course starts to use his real life traumatic event and his venting of his frustration as a practice on that course. So it's kind of a karmic revenge kind of thing that happens to our main character. That already is good enough ending for your film. It most definitely. So coming from that, basically having the Inception-esque, it was a fake movie, and this is a fake movie, and maybe even this one is a fake movie because Joel Haver is the one who's really directing all of this. That was just kind of stretching it way too far, and once again, put it even strongly into this is a passionate amateur, free-time filmmaker doing his film's territory. So there are those rough edges, and it's, in my opinion, it's better to be aware of them beforehand than just going in completely blind and then stumbling into them. But even with those rough edges, yeah, I would recommend these two movies, and based on these two movies, I would recommend Joel Haver.
I would argue even that since there are these elements that are not driven to conclusion, and perhaps having these lull moments where I'm not even sure where he wants to go and why is it dragged out a bit, like in the case of Anyone Else But Me, that Joel Haver might need a little bigger stage meaning maybe more time. Just, give yourself a year or two to pull one project, one movie together. Maybe that's a space where you could really thrive. Because, I mean, if you want to make these kind of projects, like 12 movies in a year, maybe the plots could be even more simplified. I'm not saying that even more simplified dialogue necessarily. Saying maybe have less elements to them. Just keep it even more dead simple. If you have a kidnapping scenario, okay, have a kidnapping scenario, and maybe not necessarily 3 or 4 different relationships going on, and therefore plot threads. I don't know, just focus on that, which was definitely the most interesting part, which was the kidnapping and the kidnapped lady. Like you said, it could have been shorter, so there you go. But would I recommend these films? I would recommend The Text. It was an interesting project, in a way of the curiosity of the one shot, in a way of the conflict that might be building or not be building in the household. Anyone else but me, given all the criticisms I've already given, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But Joel Haver as a director is certainly something to watch in the space, and I'll be looking into his YouTube channel every once in a while to see what he's up to, or YouTube channels in plural. I guess not to sound like a higher than thou or anything, but certainly a name to watch, and that there's some promise there, like you spelled it already out. I sometimes surprise myself, Henrik, how we go into pretty unexpected territory in this podcast. We've done different things. We haven't exactly done this, like a YouTube director, dare I say, use those terms?
Well, we kind of did mean in the bedtime stories episode where the main conversation point was like what is actually considered film and what is considered cinema. Like
Yeah.
where goes the limit or the line between a film or a short film and between content, and can content be film? That's also kind of perhaps the question with Joel Haver, who is, in the end of the day, he's a YouTube filmmaker. So does his productions count as film, or are they YouTube content? Joel Haver himself tries to differentiate this by, once again, through his Wikipedia page, where he states that he is a YouTuber and a filmmaker. So he takes on both hats, and in that sense, he makes the case that his films are films. They are not YouTube content, even though they are being posted on YouTube. But that's Joel Haver, and basically someone else may draw a different conclusion surrounding the question. I myself, just like with Bedtime Stories YouTube channel, I am kind of more open to give the qualification of a film, but then again, that's just me. If I remember correctly, in the Bedtime Stories episode, I was landing more in the territory that also bedtime stories, they were like short documentary-esque short films or short documentaries, and therefore they were giving the mantle of a film, at least in some capacity. So obviously I also see that Joel Haver is a filmmaker, and what he's making is film. But this is, once again, this is a societal discussion that is currently ongoing. We don't have this one yet deadlocked. And because of that, that's something that, like, I say that Joel Haver makes films. Joel Haver himself says that he makes films. And the guy next to me can just say that, he's just a YouTuber and he makes YouTube content. And then we all three would have to have a discussion, and perhaps through the, after 5 years, we finally can reach into some type of a conclusion. But it is somewhat like, once again, in societal discourse sense, it is, well, at least for me, it's interesting talking point, where we draw the line and what qualifies as a film. Is a too amateuristic production, does that qualify film, or does it need to reach some type of a quality, some type of a limit of quality? I myself, I have championed Finnish independent and underground movies as worthy films, but once again, that's just me. the guy next to me may have a completely different opinion and take the stance that, no, these are way too amateuristic, they don't qualify as films. Or if you take something really amateuristic and you post it on YouTube, does it lose its status as a film, and does it become a content, or is it still a film that just has been posted on YouTube?
Yeah, so...
But basically, like that's easily the next 90 minutes when you start to break that one up.
Yeah, does some kind of art with moving images or not fit into the narrow human description of a film? I don't know if that's necessarily as interesting as you put it out to be, but yeah, we can argue about what the term means, I guess. To what end, don't know, but you can argue it, certainly.
Well, if nothing else, it's or it can be a fascinating way to waste once again 90 minutes.
Fill the airtime, yes, that's important. Oh well, but yeah, this was good. Where do we venture next? I have no idea.
Well, not into Karate Kid. I still refuse to start watching that franchise through.
In that case...
There still is that Possession movie that we are supposed to watch.
Oh, are you serious? Well, we prepared for that, and then there is this one Steven Spielberg film that we prepared for 6 years ago. I don't know. But you said that that's a lot of preparation, so I guess Possession is less. So, Possession, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, we are finally tackling in listener recommendation in this podcast.
Yeah, thanks a lot, by the way. Until next time.
Until then.
Sillä 2 vaiheella, että mitä olen tehnyt itselleni ja haist nyt Henrik, mutta okei, you're on.